Hello everyone, and welcome to another Comms Prepper video. I apologize for the camera angle, but a target of opportunity has presented itself this evening. About a year ago, I talked my neighbor into putting an Icom ID-4100 into his truck. Right around the same time, I put the ID-880H up into my station. Well, I just learned today that he got his hands on Icom's new ID-4100 D-STAR mobile radio. Now, I can't allow that radio to be so close to the house without getting my hands on it and demonstrating it for you guys here on the channel. So we're going to run over his house real quick and liberate that for a few days from him and give you some demos, see what's under the hood of that new radio, and then maybe we'll get it back to him. So I got the sun in my eyes here. I'm looking for the, yep, there's the road sign. Let's go pick up this radio and then get it up into the shack and make some videos with the new Icom D-STAR radio. I gotta turn the car around here real quick. He lives on a cul-de-sac. Alright. This is the price you pay when you're a ham radio operator and you live next door to the comms prepper. Don't ever tell me about your new radios. Alright. What's up, dude?
Hey. I need to get this back. I'm buying a new truck this weekend. So, like, don't be hauling this out to your bug-out cabin for 4 weeks or something. I need it back so I can get it in there. So, I know you're doing one of your shows or something. Just get it back to me.
Alright. I promise not to break it.
Okay.
Alright. This weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up this weekend, so hopefully the weekend after, maybe you'll help me install it.
Okay.
Alright.
I'm on it.
Thanks.
Thanks, buddy. The dude ain't getting it back this weekend. We got some videos to make. Here we go. ID-4100. Hey, let's get up into the shack, everybody. Okay, everybody, I apologize for the mess on the bench. We just got our hands on the new Icom ID-4100 D-STAR mobile radio here on the right, and I have it laid out next to my Icom ID-880H D-STAR mobile radio. This radio is now discontinued. When you look at these two radios side by side, physically their dimensions are exactly the same. So if you have an Icom ID-880H radio, then upgrading or replacing it with the ID-4100 is very easy. The only thing that really changes, of course, is the radio and the microphones. There are different part numbers. This microphone here is for the 880H, and this microphone came with the Icom ID-4100. Some of the things that are different about the ID-4100 is it has the DStar Repeater or DR function, which allows you to go right to channels. It has the built-in GPS unit, so you can use the near repeater feature like I've demonstrated here on the channel with this Icom ID-51 Alpha handheld radio. Electronically, some differences here. Behind the control head, the 4100 is now a slot for a micro SD card, and the packet radio connection that is on the rear of the 880H has been dropped from the 4100. I guess you could do packet going through the microphone jack and using the external speaker jack. I haven't read the manual on that part yet. That's how it was done in the old days. But if you're a packet radio guy, you won't have the dedicated packet jack on the back of the new 4100. But as far as the D-STAR radio goes, it's a cool little radio. The ID-880H was very menu and channel intense. You had to pre-program in all your channels so you could navigate through the D-STAR system. Now all that's taken care of with the DR function built right into the ID-4100. And again, it has the GPS unit built in. The antenna actually sits right up here in this upper left-hand corner. So a note if you're doing a mobile radio install, you want to try to keep this control head up a little bit higher on the dash so you can get a good GPS reading. I'm going to go ahead and set the ID-880H aside, reposition the camera so we can look right down on this control head, and I'll show you the 4 or 5 quick steps that I took within 10 minutes to get up and operational with this new 4100 radio here. I'll show you the software how to read the code plug out of the radio, programming your call sign, and how to actually format and update the micro SD card so you can go out to the website dstarinfo.com and download the most current repeater list. So let's get that set up and we'll be right back. Alright everybody, I hope you can see okay. I'll zoom in when we get into the specifics here on the display. I'm using the remote cable here for the control head so I can point it up at the camera that's suspended from the ceiling here. We have the radio, the control head, and to my left the optional data cable, and I highly recommend if you get an ID-4100 to get the data cable, because then you can program the unit directly out of the box with the free software from Icom. The first thing I did, of course, when I opened up the box is make sure all the parts were in there, and they were. A note again, the microphone for the ID-4100 is different than the ID-880H. So try not to mix those up, but if you have mounting hardware in your vehicle, everything else matches. The first thing you're going to want to do with this radio is get a micro SD card, and that inserts right here in the front. So with a brand new SD card, you insert it in the front, and then you want to go into the menu and format that SD card through the control head with the radio. And what that does is put on the file structure specific for this radio. Once we do that, we're going to take the SD card out of the radio and put it in the computer and go to a website called dstarinfo.com and download the current repeater list for this radio. Move that file to the SD card and through the control head import that file from the SD card into the radio. So right now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the control head so you can actually see the buttons I'm pushing to format the SD card. Then we'll go ahead and I'll show you this desktop capture software, how I download that file and move that file over. And once we have the file on the SD card, then we can do the repeater list update. We'll do the repeater list update last because the second step is to go out to Icom Japan's website and download the software for this radio, where we'll use this data cable to read the radio, pull out the code plug that came from the factory. We're not going to go into depth, we're just going to go into the software, put our call sign in, our note, and our text string. In my case I use my call sign. For the note I put the model number of the radio, 4100, and then the text line I just put my name, Hank. So let me reposition the focus on the camera here so you can see the display, and we'll show you how to format this SD card that's already in the front. Okay, my camera has stabilized. I'm going to press the menu button here. I'll just tap it. And I'm going to rotate this knob down to where it says SD card. I'm going to push the front of the VFO knob and scroll down to where it says format. I'm going to again push the VFO knob. I'm going to format the card and say yes, and it'll format that card. And again, this is going to erase the card and put the file structure specific to the ID-4100 on the card. You cannot format the card in your computer because the computer won't put the file structure in. Takes a little bit to do this. Okay, the formatting is completed. Now we want to unmount the card. Unmounting completed. I'm going to go ahead and hit the menu button to take us back out and turn the radio off. And now I'm going to use my screwdriver to remove the SD card from the radio. And again, this is a micro SD card. There's the SD card there. And I actually have an adapter to step this up to the larger size SD card. I'm going to reach around the camera here and show you that. There's the adapter. And what I'll do now is put this SD card into the full-size adapter. And now we'll roll over to the desktop capture software on the computer and show you how to go out to dstarinfo.com, download the current frequency list, put it on this card, bring it back over. We'll program the unit with Icom software, and then we'll import the new repeater list. Be right back. Okay, up here on the desktop capture software, we're at the dstarinfo.com webpage, and we're going to go to the download tab, and we're going to download the repeater list downloads for DR or DStar Repeater mode radios, which is what the ID-4100 is. We're going to come down here and put in the zip code. I'm going to put one in, 22015. Look up location, and now we're going to select the radio, and we're going to select the ID-4100 for the Americas. And here you can balance between FM and digital repeaters. We're going to leave the default at percentage of FM or analog repeaters at 20%, and go ahead and download the most current repeater list out there. And we're going to do a save as, and we'll go ahead and throw it in the downloads folder. And now we can open in the folder, and there's the file. It's a CSV file, and we're just going to copy that file and come over to the removable disk, which is the SD card we just formatted with the radio. And as you can see, it put a file structure on there for us. We're going to double click the ID-4100 folder, and inside that we have the CSV folder and the repeater list folder, and here we're going to paste in that file we just downloaded, and now it's ready to be removed from the computer. So we'll come over here, and where's the option to eject? Let me see here. There it is. Eject the SD card. Now we can remove that from the computer and safely reinstall it into the radio. Why I have the desktop capture software up here, we'll go ahead to the other tab, and this is the website for downloading the programming software for the ID-4100. It's a bit challenging to find because it's a .co.jp website, so I'll put a link down below. But right here you can see ID-4100 cloning software. We're going to use this software to read the code plug out of the radio, load our call sign in, a note and a text field, program the radio, import that repeater list, and this radio is operational. Down and dirty, takes about 10 minutes. The video's taking a bit longer. So let me go ahead and pause the camera, go ahead and get the software set up for programming, and we'll show you how to read the code plug out and then program the radio. Okay, I'm going to try to get fancy here and split the screen so you can see the faceplate of the radio and the desktop capture software here. I've got the software open. I've already selected the COM port based on the programming cable with the USB adapter for COM port 5. We're going to hit OK. And now I want to go ahead and read from the radio. So we're going to connect to the radio. As you can see, it'll give you a display here on the screen. And what we're doing is pulling out the code plug out of the radio so we can bring it up into software and do a basic edit. This software is pretty powerful, so you can do a lot of neat options in there and program in specific channels unique to your area. We're just going to do the basics so we can get up and operational on the D-STAR system, and of course the analog comes ready out of the box. It takes a little bit to pull the code plug out. I could speed this up, but I think people need to see actually how much time it takes in case they're doing it and they have a problem, to get a better idea of what you're actually going to experience, which is why I'm not using the fast forward here. Almost there. Alright, so we got all the information out of the radio. We're going to start expanding some fields out here, and the first thing we're going to check is your call sign. So in slot number 1 I put my call sign K1DOS, and the my station is call sign K1DOS, and here I put /4100 so people know what radio is being used. And then we do the message. I'll turn the message on, which already is on, and I put Hank so people have my name. So these are the 3 quick down and dirty things you can program into the radio to get up and operational. Your call sign, because in D-STAR your call sign is sent out embedded in the digital signal. You can also choose to put a little note there to let people know what kind of radio you're using, or you can put your name in there, and you can have a message. So we'll actually switch that around. How about that? We'll make this Hank, and then we'll switch the message around to 4100 so people know what kind of radio I'm running. And now we come up here to clone, and we're going to write to the radio, right to the transceiver, and there we go. That'll be the quick down and dirty program, so we can operate this radio correctly when we get into the D-STAR system. Your call sign will be in there, a note, a text message. Once it's programmed, we'll go ahead and install the SD card and import the repeater list, and this radio is operational. We're ready to go. Looks like it's taken the same amount of time it takes to program the radio as it does to read the radio. The cloning's completed. Go ahead and turn the radio off. We're going to leave the radio off. I'm going to readjust the camera, show you how to plug in the SD card, and then we'll focus back in on the control head to show you how to actually load the updated repeater list from the SD card into the radio. Do a quick pause here and be right back. Okay, here we have it. Radio's turned on. As you can see here, that little floating icon there of that satellite is actually the internal GPS unit waiting to get a lock on the satellite. And once you have a lock, I'll show you how to use the near repeater function after we load the list. The radio will talk to the GPS coordinates and look at that table and find the repeaters that are closest to you. And that's what's really cool about the DStar Repeater or DR function and the newer DStar radios having that function. You don't have to have that repeater book with you. As long as you keep that SD card updated, you basically have your repeater guide with you. So we're going to go ahead and hit the menu button. We're going to scroll down to the SD card. Push on the VFO knob. We're going to import repeater list, and there's the file. It found the file because we had the proper file structure on the SD card because we used the radio to format the card. We'll go ahead and enter there. We're going to say yes, import the file, yes, and now it's updating the internal repeater list, pulling that information off the SD card and loading it into the radio. It loaded correctly, so we're going to reboot the radio now. Power it off, power it on, and we'll wait for it to get a satellite lock and then show you the really cool feature of the DR function of the DStar mobile radio. While we're waiting for that, we'll go ahead and go into the DR mode. You can actually see it here under the VFO knob. We'll press and hold. Now it's coming up with default Calgary. Of course, we're nowhere near Calgary. We're outside of Washington, D.C. We'll wait for us to get that lock there, and once we have the lock, again, the antenna is here on the top of this control head, then we'll be able to do a near repeater and see what's close to us and make a connection. Alright, you can see we have a repeater lock. We have the from, it says Calgary. We're going to hit the VFO knob, press on it. We're going to roll down to near repeater. All repeaters, DV or digital voice repeaters, or the DStar repeaters, and you can do analog repeaters, but in this case we're going to use DV. Now it's searching for the repeaters near me based on that GPS lock. And we're going to scroll down to Alexandria, Virginia, W4HFH repeater. Select that, and now we're ready to talk on that repeater. There we have a connection.
There's the announcement from SatPC that tell me that FO29 has just come over the horizon. 73's John. Mike 5, GZH, VK, 4ZQ. Thanks for an enjoyable QSO.
wait for the other side of that
Yeah,
station.
music Q, Mike 5 Delta's a hotel for the final. Well, I look forward to another Q, so I find the birds quite interesting. As most.
And here we have their GPS information. They're actually 3,551 miles away, so obviously they're using one of the reflectors. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the quick and down and dirty things you have to do to get your ID-4100 out of the box, do some basic programming, update your list, and take advantage of the very cool DR function or digital repeater function of the DStar ID-4100 mobile radio. Thanks for watching, everybody.